South Africa may be entering a new phase of economic recovery. In his 2026 State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa laid out a vision focused on fiscal stability, infrastructure reform, energy security, and inclusive growth. Tonight, we break down the key moments from the speech and, more importantly, what they mean for the South African economy. Let's begin with the macroeconomic picture. One of the headline announcements was that South Africa has achieved 2 consecutive primary budget surpluses. In simple terms, this means government revenue, excluding debt servicing costs, has exceeded expenditure. The president also highlighted that inflation is now at its lowest level in 2 decades. Interest rates have started easing. The country's credit outlook has improved, and the rand has strengthened, supported by performance on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Taken together, these signals point to improving macroeconomic stability. For investors, this matters. Stable public finances, reduced borrowing risks, lower inflation protects household spending power, and improved credit ratings make South Africa more attractive to global capital. But stability alone does not create growth. That brings us to perhaps the most significant structural development discussed in the speech: energy. For years, load shedding has been one of the biggest constraints on South Africa's economy. It disrupted businesses, reduced productivity, and discouraged investment. In this address, the president pointed to substantial progress in ending load shedding and stabilizing electricity supply. Government is now shifting its focus toward long-term energy reform. This includes expanding renewable energy generation, strengthening the national grid, and increasing private sector participation in power production. The economic implications are substantial. Reliable electricity underpins manufacturing, mining, retail, and small business operations. Without energy stability, growth simply cannot accelerate. If these reforms hold, they could mark a turning point for economic productivity. Next, infrastructure and logistics. The president acknowledged that inefficiencies in rail and ports have constrained exports and weakened competitiveness. He outlined ongoing investment in major infrastructure projects, including the Mtenta Bridge and the Palahali Dam, both strategic developments aimed at improving connectivity and water security. Efforts are also underway to modernize rail corridors and ports to improve freight movement. For an economy heavily dependent on mining and agricultural exports, efficient logistics are critical. Reduced bottlenecks can lower costs, improve delivery times, and strengthen South Africa's trade position. Infrastructure investment also creates jobs directly, while supporting broader economic activity. Let's turn to employment and inclusive growth. Unemployment remains one of South Africa's most pressing challenges. The president reported that over 2.5 million work opportunities have been created through public employment programs. There are also plans to expand support for small businesses, informal traders, and township enterprises. A key initiative announced is the establishment of a transformation fund to support Black-owned and small enterprises with funding and access to markets. The broader aim is to increase participation in the formal economy and address long-standing structural inequality. From an economic perspective, inclusive growth strengthens domestic demand. It broadens the tax base, and it reduces social instability. However, sustained private sector job creation will remain the true test of long-term economic success. Tourism was another focus area. Government intends to streamline visa processes and improve international access to South Africa. Tourism remains one of the country's major sources of foreign exchange and employment, particularly in coastal and rural regions. Easier travel and stronger global marketing could boost visitor numbers and stimulate small business growth in hospitality and services. In a slow-growth environment, tourism can offer relatively quick economic returns. The president also addressed crime and corruption. He acknowledged that both remain serious concerns affecting business confidence. Commitments were made to strengthen law enforcement capacity and continue anti-corruption reforms. For investors, both domestic and international, institutional credibility is essential. Economic growth depends not only on policy announcements, but on governance, enforcement, and accountability. So what does all of this mean for South Africa's economic outlook? The 2026 State of the Nation address presents a narrative of stabilization and structural reform. There are clear signs of macroeconomic improvement. Progress in energy reform could unlock productivity. Infrastructure upgrades may enhance competitiveness. And inclusive growth initiatives aim to broaden economic participation. But implementation will be key. South Africa has seen reform plans before. What matters now is execution, speed, and measurable results. If fiscal discipline continues, energy stability holds, and infrastructure bottlenecks are resolved, the country could move toward moderate, sustained growth. If not, structural constraints may continue to limit expansion. For now, the message from government is one of cautious optimism. The foundation for recovery appears stronger. The question is whether they will support long-term, inclusive prosperity. Thank you for watching. For continued coverage and in-depth analysis of South Africa's economic and political developments, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe the reforms announced will translate into real economic growth? Good night.